Hey there, XRP owners. Welcome back to the crypto. Happy November 1st, The month of November has finally begun. Of course, let's talk about what's going on. Thank you for all the love. In other words, we're starting off on a really good note. You already know what's going on if you watch my HBAR update and some of the new updates I just posted. But you can see for yourself that things are actually going really well right now. It's clear that today is the weekend. On weekends, people are more likely to lie than normal. Seam futures are closed, but there is a lot of green right now, as I said. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope this progress lasts. The price of XRP is up about 1% right now, and it's now $2.50. Bitcoin prices are also up about 1%. The value is going back up above 150 billion to be exact, 150.4 billion, which is the 24-hour trade volume, at around $3.6 billion at the time this change was made. But before we go any further, I want to make it clear that nothing on this channel is meant to be taken as financial advice. As with any investment, you should always do your own study before putting money into crypto. Let's begin with this. Let Quinton know you care. As Quinton puts it, this is the first time that Bitcoin has fully blown away all other cryptocurrencies. Every rise is seen as proof that Bitcoin is becoming more popular. It's hard to get money. Institutions are focusing on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and retail is shut down. It's altcoin season, which means people need to be greedy and tell stories. Right now, there's only this pair, and I agree with them 100%. This is something we talk about all the time on the show. We're not seeing as much store interests as we have in the past, which is where you usually see altcoins start to pick up. But while we're on the subject, I made some changes to Dash, and now you're seeing a lot of these coins, getting pretty pumped up. So, no, is this a hint? Just a little while longer and altcoin season will begin, As you might expect, power will play a part in that. It will show weakness, and Bitcoin will need to stabilize itself, which, once more, we definitely haven't seen in the last, say, month and a half. That's something we need to think about, but let's find out what's going on. That's a new record for how much Bitcoin institutions bought. 975,000 Bitcoin have already been bought by ETFs and public companies this year, while only 136 Bitcoin have been mined. Supply is quickly running out. In other words, this means that supply is not greater than demand. Now, there is a lot more demand, and this time, the bigger players are mostly the ones putting in the demand. As I said before, this is where the energy really starts to show you guys how far crypto has come, especially in terms of being used by more people. This much awe has never been seen before. Without a doubt, this is the biggest awe ever. It's clear that last year was great, but once more, we have far surpassed institutional demand from last year. That's really cool to see. But, October is over. It was on the red side, as you could see, for 3.69% in October. That's what Bitcoin did too, shut itself down. Not since 2018 last time. That means it will take about 7 years. Once more, November has begun on a good note, just so you know. Let's hope this keeps going. Once more, that will be really, really cool to see. That will also help us get a better idea of how the rest of the year 2025 is still to come. But once more, this is the 4th month of the year 2025, and you can see that Bitcoin closed in the red. That was a pretty big one in March, August, and October. In the comments, please tell me what you think about that. Let's go forward once more. I put this up yesterday, right? I said, I'm going to leave this here. You can see the Bitcoin rainbow chart here. Again, I'm sharing this with you guys because it's so important to talk about Bitcoin. Even though this is an XRP update, I think you should pay attention to the leading sign, which tells us more about what will happen in the market as a whole. You can see for yourself that the rainbow chart shows the past. You can see that the Bitcoin price keeps going up until it hits a new all-time high. In other words, move from this orangish zone to the red zone. And you could see that every time. Again, we're still in this bluish zone, which is pretty much where this picture says we should be by chance, which is crazy to think about. But once more, that's definitely the case from the point of view of an altcoin. You could say that's not true for Bitcoin, though. But very, very interesting. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's go ahead. So Coinbase gets a lot of XRP coming in. The amount of money coming from Coinbase in the last 24 hours is about 23.93 million AH. As things move forward, James says that Bitwise and Van Eck have joined the group of issuers who have filed to possibly start selling crypto goods next month. Once more this month, since November has already begun. This is how Fidelity and Canary funds filed for Solana in the past. Had a Canary file for XRP too. It will be interesting to see how this turns out. Of course, the government shutdown is still going on, but I think that's when we'll see more information and bigger reports about that, since there is a processing part to it as well. Take a look at this, though. We all know that the Ripple Wave event will happen in the first week of this month. Again, that much anticipated event will happen in the next few days, and you can expect to see what Reese says. I'm excited to be in charge of this panel at Ripple's yearly events next week. In fact, the biggest banks in the world are already putting assets on chain. It's big news that Reese Merrick himself said it. Don't forget that Ripple RLUSD isn't just another safe coin. It is controlled, over-collateralized, and audited 103% reserve custody at BNY Mellon, and it's attested to every month by the US CPA. There are rules about it, of course. Okay, so let's talk about stablecoins again. As we all know, stablecoins are getting a lot of attention. And keep in mind that when FIAs want to use safe coins, they want to look into something where they know for sure there is a reserve. They know that it's because the rules are clear. They know that that the person who made the stablecoin is trustworthy in that area. And that's where Ripple really shines. But let's look at what's going on with the price right now. These are important things that we don't want to forget. Again, we should look at the dominance every hour, which is 59.88%. That's why it's pulling down now. As we said before, though, we want the power to keep going down, especially to where it was just 2 days ago. Drop in below that, of course. I believe that's when things can really start to get interesting. Bitcoin, on the other hand, let us change it live. You know, Bitcoin is sitting right now. It would be great if it loaded. As you may already know, Bitcoin is currently standing at the 23.6 Fibonacci retracement level from the beginning of the month. Good job. It's clear that we're in the 23.6. Of course, I'd love for Bitcoin's price to rise again to the confirmations level of 117. As of right now, though, there are still some other important numbers to keep an eye on. Still, good start. We're in the middle of a weekend. Because CME futures are closed on the weekends, there is more trading going on. Again, I don't want you to forget that the price of XRP is still within the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement line. Again, we're pretty much back where we were a few days ago. There was pushback in that range, and it came out again at $2.55. I told you guys about that. But just yesterday, the day before yesterday, we did a repeat at 230. Since then, the price has gone up about 7%, which is great to see. To go over $2.55 again brings us back to where we were, and we want to get back over $2.70 because that pretty much makes the 23.6 possible. In other words, please tell me what you think in the comments. As a Matt,